my parliamentary colleagues, who here, Tracy Martin and Mahesh Vendra. You say Rhea's still arriving?
On the way, yeah.
So where is she?
She's on route. The plane was landing at...
Just landing.
Bypass.
All right, okay. And now I understand also you've got, we've got Claire and Tibbles and Grant Phillips from Reefton. Which one? Oh, you do know. That's a long, long way away. In fact, you have your races at Easter every year.
Christmas.
And Easter.
Mine was Christmas.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah.
When?
You'll be the 30th soon.
Christmas is over on the 25th.
Well, that's the Christmas
New
one.
Year's
Christmas
Eve.
period.
New Year's Eve, is it?
No, 30th.
Okay.
30th.
Well, I've been in a couple of times in Easter, and I thought it was only Easter that you had them there, but never mind.
No.
But it's a long. I know how far away it is. And also Chris Goodyear over here, who was a foundation member of this organisation when we were all so much younger, way back in 1993. That's a long time ago when you think about it. And we've also got Kevin Gardner, you mentioned, Marie Doldry, Gordon Curry.
Thank you, Winston.
Mrs. Curry. You're looking after him pretty good at the moment, hasn't you? He's in pretty good shape. And everyone else who I haven't recognised, my apology, or Sue Sarah. The number one person here is going to be the agent. So thanks for coming out and taking this time to give this kick-off in this part of the country as a part of our regional drive, a fair lift. Now, all of a sudden, the regions are becoming politically popular. You'll hear it in countless speeches. In fact, the Labor Party discovered it blatantly the other day at its annual conference. The regions got mentioned countless times. And other guys found them as well. Almost a bit like Columbus discovered America, purely by accident. His name is Stephen Joyce. All of a sudden, he's talking about the regions, excepting when it comes to dishing out the money to the parts of the country that make the real wealth and send products offshore to bring back money for the family in New Zealand. They forget the regions at that point in time and keep on talking about the big cities, Auckland, and of necessity because of the Christchurch earthquake, Christchurch. But it's totally Auckland-centric at the moment, where the national government and the Beltway in Wellington have focused their time until they began to think, hang on, the regions may not be as safe for us as we thought. And of course they shouldn't be. If you take people for granted, they'll pretty soon forget you. And that's the reason why we won Northland a few months ago, because the place had been neglected for about 40 years of people being, to use American phrase, long on the lip and slow on the hip in central government. And so in the last moment, in panic, the campaign manager, Stephen Joyce, thought, I know what we'll do. We'll promise 10 double bridges. Not bad when you got 778 double bridges and you promised 10. What about the rest? The other 699. Well, they haven't even delivered any of those engineering plans for those. And then to top it off, there was to be a superhighway going between Puhoi and Warkworth, and someone obviously got the W wrong and added on Wellsford. And when he was asked, have you done any engineering reports or any background on this? Can we see it? They said, no, we haven't started. Just like that. That's how cavalier they are when they can get away with taking people for granted. And then on top of that, they realised that this wasn't going far enough, so they promised to have super fast broadband rollout, and they haven't delivered on that. And then if you haven't got a cell phone operating in your part of the valleys and dales and glens of Northland, they said, we'll put up, not from private business, we'll put up cell phone towers to make up the difference. Well, you can imagine what that would be like in Northland, or the East Coast, or the Hawke's Bay, whatever else. Now, those are 4 promises they made in a crisis that they had no intention of keeping. And our job out here, in places like Stoke and around New Zealand, is to remind them, as I said before, where in the country is the real wealth coming from? Now, I'll give you a phenomenon which you'll be aware of. especially from Reefton, because Southland has 3% of our population, about 80 to 90% of our exports, and where are they on the medium incomes? Down the bottom. How's that possible? Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. It's because the people of Reefton are just too kind to their tormentors. They keep on going out and voting for the very party that does that. How could your most export wealthy per capita province be down the bottom and Wellington Central be at the top? And then again, even poor old Northland, which is much maligned, it is in the top half of electorate export wealth creators in the country, but they're down the very bottom, struggling to beat off maybe parts of the Poverty Bay and parts of the West Coast. So it's a sad picture that we need to turn right, and the reason why we're here in Nelson today, or in Stoke today, in the great province of the Tasman rugby team, is to signify that we intend to be serious about the provincial and the regional people of this country and to give them a fair go. And just in case you've forgotten, you Tasman supporters, guess which was the province that helped you stay in the top division to go on to be the number 1 or 2 team in the top division? Well, it was Northland at the time. I remember it very well. And guess who was at the head of the Northland rugby unit at the time? My brother Wayne, and he came down and organised a combination with the guys from Tasman, and they stayed up, and look how good it is. Fantastic. In fact, you'd probably be ahead of 7 other provinces with much bigger populations. So congratulations. I'm not here trying to endear myself to the supporters of Tasman, but I do think they play a fine brand of rugby, and they've had some impressive players which have taken from nowhere in a long, long way in a very, very short time. So well done. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've been to the Cawthorne Institute this morning. Now, just in case you think that we're big noting it because Prince Charles was there last week, our meeting was organised months ago, to tell you the truth. It was organised months ago, but what it really brings home is the fact that this #1 private research institute in this country is not being used, not because of their mistake or their fault, it's not being used to the extent that we should be doing research and development in New Zealand. We have got enormous resources in fishing, in the potential of aquaculture, and an institute like that is at the forefront of international, not just national research. But in 2015, we've got to ask ourselves, how come a country like Norway is so far ahead in fishing and aquaculture when we ourselves were taking economic immigrants from Norway just 40, 45, 50 years ago? We have wasted too much time not using some of our best minds and not some of our best scientists. In fact, we haven't put the money or investment into research and development that would see areas like the Marlborough, Nelson, the Kaikoura coast, and indeed now I say at Northland and the East Coast doing far, far better than they should be doing. It's great to be here. I won't talk about the other difficulties that we might have in this part of the world. We're going to be better informed because we've got an office here, and we'll give it our best shot to ensure that when Nick Smith's not doing his job, we'll do it for him.
Yeah.
I remember very well Nick Smith. I came here in 1990 to a meeting in Richmond. We packed the place out. He was 24 years of age, and I was trying to explain his youth by saying that Pitt the younger was he was 26 years of age, and I was trying to explain away his youth and innocence and inexperience by saying that Pitt the younger was Prime Minister of the UK when he was 24, but it was totally lost on Nick Smith and everywhere else. Now, Nick's an amazing guy. I don't know whether you know this, but he's been building houses all over the country, and 39,000 he promised fast speed in Auckland. Guess what was in the Herald last week? 102 houses have been built. How did he get away with the promise of 39,000 homes? And guess what he said then? Something which we said at the time. We said, Mr. Smith, a consent is not a home. It's only a consent. And guess what his excuse was? Well, I didn't say houses, he said. I said consents. So don't go and get a caravan or a tent. He's got something better for you to live in. It's a consent. Extraordinary, but I might just say that it underscores, present media company accepted, it underscores the fact that far too many people, dare I say it, in the big metropolitan media have got themselves into the frame of politics where they're no longer the public conscience. They're no longer asking the questions. And they're certainly not asking the right ones. Otherwise, young Nick down here would have been gone a long time ago. And in fact, he was. Do you remember that? Not very long ago, we came out of Parliament, and this is to do with the ACC. Of course you remember. And Nick was getting away with it for 3 long weeks when we made a short speech saying, this is a wonderful story. It's got these features. This, and sex. And he was gone within 3 hours. So why is he back?
God knows.
I know why. Because they're so arrogant nowadays, they think that they can do what they like. They can exactly do what they like. And there'll be no punishment, no long-term consequences. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here in the Marlborough region, in Nelson, Marlborough, I know it's a bit parochial down here with the old rugby teams the way they used to be, but Tasman changed all that. We're here to say that we are not so arrogant that we think regional New Zealand comes second. We don't think that being provincial means that we're inferior. In fact, quite the context, given this country's great history. Since 1882, when the first exports left in terms of frozen meat, frozen sheep from New Zealand on the Dunedin, this country has been built and maintained by the regions and provinces. All they need now is a government that understands it. Yeah. And we intend to be part of the next one. And our rise in the polls has been very, very strong. Under the radar screen, and it hasn't come from being on Morning Report every morning. In fact, if you're the Greens, you cough, you get the headlines. If you're National Party, you have a titch, and you'll be in the headlines. Even the Labour Party. But any coverage we got, and we get, we have to struggle for. I can bet the next time I'm asked to go on Morning Report will be, can you put out a Christmas message to all our listeners? And don't laugh, any money you like. When was the last time somebody from New Zealand first was on Morning Report? Every morning, over and over again. The usual same old faces in the same old places, excepting, can't they read the polls? We can offer you one thing if you work for us in this part of the world, and I hope you do. No other party can make this commitment. But when the dust settles after the 2017 election, you'll get to decide the new government. No other political party can make that statement. And the polls, which are utterly erroneous, I want to tell my metropolitan friends, if they're as erroneous as there has been in the past, then we are way further ahead than they think. And that is the reason why we got the National Party seriously panicked, and we're making friends everywhere because all of a sudden they want us to be on their side. We make one commitment to you. We're not moving anywhere in the political spectrum without we take you in the provinces with us. And it so happens that we have now got the bottom of the South Island covered in Invercargill, and the top of the South Island covered, and we've got Wellington covered off, and we've got top of the North Island covered, and many places in between. Give us time and give us your help. Tell your friends, and we'll go a long, long way further than that. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. All the best, Sarah, for the future. You make sure that we've got a huge communication with the people here. All we promise to people is, regardless of your political background, we don't care if you are a communist or a far, far right Looney Tune. If you've got a local issue, it's big for us. And we'll give it our best shot in Parliament. I have much pleasure in declaring the Nelson elected office duly open.